What if Deku was the son of Mirko? Chapter 5. At the Usagiyama residence. In Izuku's room was the lump of covers that slowly lowered and lifted with Izuku's steady breathing. Everything was pitch black, except for the tiny amount of moonlight that was barely seeping through a small gap between the curtains of a nearby window. The door opened to Izuku's room and a figure dashed quickly around to the other side of the room, making no noise whatsoever. The figure slowly rose up to stand at full height from behind the bed and then suddenly, "Rise and shine, sleepyhead," Rumi shouted as she kicked Izuku off of the bed. Izuku's body fell off and hit the ground with a thud with his covers still on. What the hell was that for? Izuku shouted as he popped his head out of his covers with an annoyed look on his face. To wake you up. I thought that was obvious, Rumi said with a mischievous grin on her face. Izuku glanced at the clock on his dresser to check the time. He had never gotten up late before, and he had never missed his alarm either. It read 3 o'clock a.m. What the hell? You woke me up this early, Izuku shouted in anger. Wow, so angry. It's not my fault you let your guard down, Rumi teased. I was sleeping, Izuku shouted defensively. Well anyways, I woke you up because we really shouldn't miss our flight, should we? Rumi said as she smiled. Izuku's rage was being slowly replaced by curiosity. This is my first time hearing about it, and where are we going? Izuku asked curiously as he got up out of his covers and stretched. Didn't I tell you yesterday that we were going to a theme park? Rumi asked rhetorically. Huh? I thought that was just a weird joke coming from you, Izuku said in a monotone voice. What? Of course, I wasn't joking. We're going to be going all over Japan, so you can get used to traveling a lot if you want to be a solo hero like me. Oh, so that's what this is about. Why didn't you just tell me yesterday then? Because a hero needs to be ready for anything, and this may be partly for training, but there is nothing wrong with having fun while doing so, Rumi said as she smiled. Ah, so this is her plan. She wants to spend time with me while hiding it as trainee. Oh. Izuku was cut off from his thoughts when he suddenly got whacked in the head by a chop from Rumi. Snap out of it and pack your things already. We need to get going, Rumi shouted as she walked past him and out the door of his room. After a while of packing, Izuku came out of his room with 2 black suitcases. He carried one over his right shoulder while the other had wheels and rolled along in his left hand. He had no idea what his mom had planned, but he knew he would probably have to pack for the whole week since she always gave him that crap about needing to be prepared for anything, although that didn't mean he thought she was wrong. He walked out of the door, making sure it was locked on his way out, and walked down the stairs of the apartment. Near the bottom of the stairs was Rumi pulled up in a nice lava red Lamborghini. Despite not looking like it, Rumi was loaded with the pay she receives as the number 3 hero. Add that with the fact that she works solo makes her possibly one of the richest people in Japan. The only reason she hadn't bought an expensive house is because she felt no need to. Izuku was fine where he was at, and Rumi rarely spent her money on expensive things, simply because she didn't like wearing any fancy jewelry or dresses since it wasn't her style. Izuku finished packing his suitcases into the trunk of the Lamborghini, which was in the front, and then sat in the passenger side next to Rumi. Once he confirmed he was ready, they took off to the airport. Rumi drove pretty fast through the streets, and this had always made Izuku nervous, but when he had asked her to slow down in the past, she just retorted with, if I'm to buy the whole speedometer, then I'm going to use the whole speedometer. And this is the reason why Izuku preferred walking than driving. Ugh. Isn't she supposed to be a hero? And yet she's here breaking the law by speeding. Izuku sunk in his seat, sweating nervously at his mother's gleeful laughs as she drove recklessly. The worst thing is that she could easily pay for any ticket too, so she would never truly learn her lesson, and there was nothing he could do about it. Luckily, they had arrived at the airport, unharmed, and Izuku had immediately opened his door and fell out onto the ground, relieved that they had stopped. My driving isn't that bad, is it? Rumi joked as she opened the trunk to pull out their suitcases. It's the worst. I feel like driving with you is more dangerous than any villain fight, Izuku shouted in irritation. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, with my extremely sharpened senses we wouldn't wreck, Rumi says proudly while pointing to her ears. That isn't an excuse to break the law, Izuku complained. After a little arguing, they had walked to the airfield where they were greeted by the pilot and followed them to a private jet. What? You have a private jet? How have I not known about this? Izuku shouted in surprise. Of course, I do. How do you think I get around Japan so fast without fans crowding me all the time? Rumi shouted proudly. They both walked up the steps into the private jet. Izuku looked around in amazement. It was pretty fancy, and it made him wonder how much it cost. Inside the plane was nice white leather seats that all had beautifully furnished wooden tables in between two seats each. There were small windows around the inside of the plane lining the sides. There was a restroom near the back of the plane, and near it was a couch to lay on. Izuku sat down in one of the leather chairs and looked out the window, while his mom sat across from him. It wasn't long until they began to take off, and all Izuku could do was peer through the window. They kept going higher and higher until they were far above the clouds. Izuku had never been this high before, and it was a strange feeling. The only time he had been even close to this height was when he rode on his Auntie Ryuko's back when he was a kid, but now he was much higher. You like it, huh? Rumi said with a grin on her face as she watched him stare out of the window with wonder. Yeah. I could definitely get used to this, Izuku said with a smile, as he turned to face his mother. Rumi laughed. Well, you're gonna have to work your way up the ranks in order to be able to purchase something like this. Rumi teased him. It took only a little over an hour until they reached their destination and landed. They had both exited the plane after grabbing their stuff. Once they exited the airport, they met up with a taxi that was waiting for their arrival, and then they were taken to a hotel. Wow, this is where you stay? Izuku asked, staring up at the large building in front of them that looked to be more like a skyscraper than an apartment building. Only when I come to this city, I make sure to check into a good hotel so that I can get a good night's rest and breakfast because health is important for beating up bad guys. Rumi showed a toothy smile while flexing her right bicep. Yeah, okay, I get it, Izuku told her, then looked back up to the building they were walking up to. It was covered in glass panes, and seemed to curve on its sides as it went straight up to around 50 floors. It had a fountain in the front with a garden surrounding it with two brick pathways leading to the entrance around it. They checked in and went straight up to the 50th floor. From there they walked into the penthouse. Izuku's jaw dropped at the scene before him. There were several large couches around an extremely large flat-screen TV that almost made it seem like a movie theater. There were several glass tables around, an inside hot tub, an opened island kitchen, and a balcony with its own private swimming pool. Ha ha ha. You should see your face right now, Rumi said as she took several pictures of Izuku's shocked expression. I thought you said fancy wasn't your style, Izuku said, still holding his shocked expression. It isn't. But normally the more expensive it is, the more comfortable, right? Rumi reasoned. Izuku couldn't argue with that reasoning, but he still couldn't accept that response, so he stared at her in disbelief. What's with that look? Do you not want the penthouse? Rumi questioned, trying to shake her son's suspicion off. I don't believe you. You're totally not the type to buy fancy things simply because it's comfortable, Izuku countered. Alright. Rumi shook her hands in defense and then sighed in defeat. I just wanted to try to spoil you for once. I've seen a lot of other mothers doting on their children when I was traveling, and it made me feel kind of guilty for leaving you at the house most of the time. I wanted to try. Well, actually being a mother for once, Rumi said as she rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. She had felt like she had failed him as a mother. All these years he had only gotten training from her, since fighting was really the only thing she knew how to do. Then when she saw him in the entrance exam, he had made her proud, which only made her guilt grow since she knew his abilities, his strength, his tactical mind was all due to his whole life being rigorous training to become a strong hero. Her quirk wasn't very strong by itself. She was made fun of back when she was small, since she had a rabbit quirk and everyone didn't think her quirk would be able to give her the ability to fight, but she had proved them wrong by working hard every single day to push herself past her limits. She realized she had done the same thing to her son, but started even earlier than she did, which made him stronger than she was at his age. It's fine, Mom. I would be lying if I said I didn't miss you sometimes when you left for a long time when I was younger, but you can't say that you haven't given me anything. In fact, you gave me my greatest wish, Izuku said as he walked up to her. And what would that be? Rumi asked with curiosity. You gave me everything I need to become a great hero. Without your guidance I probably would have never become as strong as I am today. I'm thankful for all that you have shown me, and I have never once hated you for leaving me. It is my passion to become a great hero like you, not only to quench my thirst for a good fight and do good deeds while doing so, but also to make you proud, Izuku said with a smile as he stopped walking when he stood about a foot away from her. Rumi's eyes almost got teary from hearing her son be so thankful for what little she had given him, so in order to keep herself from showing any weakness, she pulled him in for a hug and laughed. Haha. I never thought you could say such sappy things. Did you try theater in school or something? Rumi cheerfully teased him as she put him in a chokehold and rubbed her fist into his hair. Ah. Hey. Of course, I did. Now let go of me if all you're gonna do is assault me, Izuku said as he struggled to get her out of her grasp. The next day, Rumi and Izuku had arrived at a hero-themed theme park that was just right across from their hotel. There were tons of people all walking around with souvenirs and food. It was bustling with excitement. Izuku was wearing a white t-shirt with the kanji for carrot written on the front. He had tan cargo shorts and his red tennis shoes. Rumi was wearing a white t-shirt with a carrot drawn on the front. She had tan shorts that gripped her thighs and black and white Converse. In addition, she was wearing plain-looking glasses. Mom, just putting on glasses isn't going to fool anyone. Izuku had mentally face-bombed at the idea his mother came up with in order to hide her identity. Nonsense, that strong guy in the old superhero comics pulled it off, so why can't I? What was his name again? You're talking about Superman, and he was in DC Comics. He's not real. There's no way people aren't going to recognize you. Izuku reprimanded her. Hey. Nice Mirko cosplay. A random person shouted as they walked by with the crowd. Thanks. Rumi said proudly. Izuku was now physically face-palming. He was shocked to realize people were actually this dumb. See, I knew it was a perfect disguise. Rumi snickered. Ugh, whatever. So, what should we do first? Izuku questioned. I have no idea. What? You brought us here. You didn't plan anything out. Izuku asked in frustration. No, I thought you would know what to do. I've never been to a theme park before. Rumi said in her defense. Well, I haven't either. Izuku retaliated. Well then, why don't we just go try that thing out? Rumi said as she pointed towards a large machine that people came up and measured their strength with by punching it. Sure, I've heard of these before, and I've always wondered what my score would be, Izuku said as he collided his fists together to pump himself up. Alright then. Rumi said as she and Izuku walked up to the machine. The machine was a large cube shape, but had a circular red pad on the front of it where people would punch, and it had a meter next to it that showed heroes' faces alongside it. The faces went as following from top to bottom: All Might, Endeavor, Mirko, Hawks, and Best Jeanist. Of course, this caught Rumi's attention. What? How dare they put that hot head above me? I'm stronger than that human flamethrower. Rumi said in fury. I think they just put the top 5 hero rankings on there just to try and inspire people to reach higher. I'm sure they know that you're physically stronger. Izuku waved his hands to try and repress her anger. Teach. I don't care. I'm gonna prove that that firecracker doesn't belong above me. Rumi huffed. Welcome to my hero punching test. A large man who had rhinoceros-like features on him said. He was tall and had big muscles. He wore a red t-shirt with a dumbbell painted on the front, loose green shorts, and large plain-looking brown shoes. I'm in charge of this here contraption for the park, and the rules are simple. Hit the machine as hard as you can on the red target, and depending on your results, you get to pick your prize. The man then waved his hand at the various prizes that consisted of mostly hero merchandise, like a Best Jeanist keychain, Hawk's visor, Mirko's ears on a headband, Endeavor's gauntlets, and a large All Might plush. Oi! You got Mirko's ears wrong. Rumi shouted at the man while gesturing to the headband prize. What do you mean? The man questioned. The ears are on the side of her head. Not the top. Rumi complained. Haha. Well, that's fine. Not too many people pick that prize anyways. The man stated, which seemed to irritate Rumi further. A small tick appeared on her head and Izuku nervously chuckled at the situation. Fine, I'll take your challenge and get the highest score. Rumi huffed as she walked towards the machine. Okay, that will be 500 yen. The man said. Rumi handed the money over and scoffed as she got close to the machine. Can I kick it? Rumi asked while still looking at the machine. Yes, anything goes. Just as long as it's one hit and it's built to handle strength quirks, so you can go all out. The man said with a smirk. Rumi's evil grin blossomed on her face as she heard this and prepared her kick. All I got, huh? Don't blame me for what happens next then. Rumi had a devilish look on her face as she winded her right leg back and then swung her leg ferociously at the machine. Her foot planted directly into the center of her target. The fabric tore on impact, and the machine buckled from the immense force. The metal frame supporting the front bent inwards slightly. The meter broke and smoke began to rise from the overwhelmed machine. Many people who were walking around froze in astonishment. Some clapped while others took pictures. What? My baby. That cost over 2 million yen. The Rhino Man sobbed as he fell to his knees in disbelief. Well, about that prize. I'll take that one, Rumi said with a grin on her face as she pointed at the headband. Izuku sighed at his mother's pettiness. He never got to test out the machine himself due to her own pride, but he couldn't say he didn't find it funny. After Rumi had collected her prize from the sulking Rhino Man and had given him compensation, the crowd dispersed and both Rumi and Izuku were walking in the crowd once again. Wow, that was fun. Maybe I should go destroy another attraction here. Rumi joked with a smile. You're so petty, you know you should have just punched it instead of kicking it with full force. Izuku scolded. Okay, I won't destroy any more, but still, look. Rumi said in an excited tone as she pointed at the headband she was wearing. I got 4 ears now. Rumi joked. Haha. You look ridiculous with those on. You really had to get your own merchandise too. Izuku laughed. The both of them had fun going to different places for the rest of the week until it was time for Izuku to start his first day at UA, and Rumi had to return to her hero work. 800 hours A.M. UA. High. 4 people got in because of recommendations, and 36 through the regular exams. We were split into 2 classes of 20 students each. There's one The door is pretty large. Makes me wonder if I'm going to have any gigantic classmates. Izuku pondered as he slid the door open. Take your feet off that desk right now. A blue-haired boy yelled. Huh? Bakugo said annoyed, as he turned his head towards the boy that was scolding him. I can't allow you to keep disrespecting this academy, you cretin. Oh, I remember you. You're that annoying kid who yelled at me during the entrance exam. You got a death wish or something? Bakugo said in an intimidating tone while making sparks pop off his hand. You dare threaten a classmate? The boy gasped in shock. Oh no. Looks like just gigantic ash holes. Izuku said in exasperation inside his mind. Oh, hey, you're the one that realized that there was more to the test. The blue-haired boy said as he noticed Izuku standing in the doorway. Nice to meet you. I am Tenya Ida from the Sumei Private Academy. Ida shouted in greeting as he chopped his right hand up and down, while walking towards Izuku. Ha. I'm Izuku Usagiyama. But you can call me Usagi Stickler. Izuku introduced himself with a proud grin. Stickler? Never mind, I want to apologize for last time. I now see that you're a better student than I am because you realize there was more than just scoring villain points on the practical test. Ida says while looking ashamed that he didn't figure it out. Oh, hey Usagi. Uraraka's voice came from behind Izuku as she tapped him on the shoulder. It looks like we both made it, and we're in the same class. This year is going to be so exciting. Uraraka said in a cheerful tone. Oi. Usagi. You fucking took first place from me, you damn bastard. Don't think that this is a victory you can hold over me. I will win in the end. Bakugo shouted while angrily stomping towards Izuku. At this point the whole class was listening in on their conversation. Izuku thought back to the moment he had received his results. He opened letter for a hologram to fall out with All Might congratulating him, and then displaying the scoring for the top 10 which is as follows. 10th, Mezzo Shoji 40 villain points 7 rescue points. 9th, Yasu Aways 50 villain points 6 rescue points. 8th, Fumikage Takoyami 47 villain points 10 rescue points. 7th, Tetsutsu 49 villain points 10 rescue points. 6th, Tenya Ida 52 villain points 9 rescue points. 5th, Itsuka Kendo 25 villain points 40 rescue points. 4th, Ibara Shiozaki 36 villain points 32 rescue points. 3rd, Jiro Kirishima 39 villain points 35 rescue points. 2nd, Katsuki Bakugo 99 villain points 0 rescue points. 1st, Izuku Usagiyama 105 villain points 35 rescue points. I will beat you in front of everyone. Then I'll finally prove how much better I am. Bakugo huffed in anger as he shouted at Izuku and scared everyone who was watching except for Izuku, and a kid with red and white hair in the back. Izuku's rabbit ears perked up and he quickly turned around and glanced down from where Uraraka was standing, where he spotted a strange sight. It looks like a giant caterpillar. No, wait, on second thought it looks more like a homeless man in a sleeping bag. Izuku thought out in his mind. I'm impressed you noticed me, even with all of the noise going on. Speaking of which, if you're just here to make friends, then you can pack up and leave. It took you all more than 8 seconds to shut up. This won't do. Time is precious and rational students would understand that. The man said as he stood up and unzipped his sleeping bag tiredly. Everyone was shocked and confused at who the man was. He was a slender and tall, pale-skinned man with messy, shoulder-length black hair that partially hangs in front of his face with half-opened black eyes. He sported a ragged all-black outfit that consisted of a long-sleeved shirt and matching pants that tuck into his boots. He also was wearing a utility belt and a gray scarf. Hello, I'm Shota Zawa, your homeroom teacher, Zawa said in a bored tone. Everyone was shocked at the new information they were just told, and some were actually pondering if he was actually telling the truth. Right, let's get to it. Put these on and head outside, Zawa said casually while pulling out gym uniforms from his sleeping bag. The uniforms were blue and had a large U.A. going down the front with red lines tracing around white patches on the sleeves. U.A. Practice fields. What? A quirk assessment test? The class shouted in unison after they had all gotten dressed and gone outside to meet their teacher. But, sir, what about orientation? Uraraka asked with a concerned tone. If you're going to be in the big leagues, you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies, Zawa said in his usual tone without even turning to face her. Here at UA, we're not tethered to traditions. That means that I get to run my class, however I see fit, Zawa stated coldly before continuing. You've been taking standardized tests most of your lives. But you never got to use your quirks in physical exams before. The country's still trying to pretend we're all created equal by not letting those with the most power excel. It's not rational. One day, the Ministry of Education will learn. Zawa explained his logic to his students while holding up his phone with different tests written on it. Usagiyama, you managed to get the most points on the entrance exam. What was your farthest distance throw with a softball when you were in junior high? Zawa asked as he turned to face Izuku. 195 meters. Izuku responded quickly. This started a bunch of murmurs of some who were impressed and others in disbelief. Impressive. I know you can't turn your quirk off though, since it's a mutant type, but this time anything goes. Try to hit the ball as far as possible while staying in this circle, Zawa said while tossing a ball to Izuku and pointing at a white circle drawn out on the ground. Izuku smirked as he caught the ball and walked into the circle. He was really excited to make all of his classmates' jaws drop. Once he was in the circle, he planned exactly the best way to use his powers, and once he made his decision, he nodded to himself in confirmation. Izuku threw the ball straight up into the air, which confused everyone who was watching. There was no way he was going to get it very far like that, is what they all thought. As the ball slowed down, and then started to fall, Izuku jumped back onto both of his hands to do a handstand, then he bent his elbows and knees in for the maximum build-up. Right when the ball came close to Izuku, he launched his arms outwards, propelling his body away from the ground, and then in the final second, he kicked out both of his legs with as much force as possible. Both of his feet smashed directly into the ball, creating a small shockwave from the impact. The ball shot out at high speeds as the wind whistled around it. The side of the ball that took the impact was dented in. It flew straight up for a long while until it finally started to descend and fall into the trees that were slightly beyond the field. The students were shocked by what just happened, and even Zawa paused for a moment before looking at his phone and smirked underneath his scarf. All of you need to know your maximum capabilities. It's the most rational way of figuring out your potential as a pro hero, Zawa said as he turned towards the rest of the class and showed them the results. 1,563 meters. The class gasped in amazement. Whoa. 1,560 meters. There's no way. A student with blonde hair and a black lightning bolt says in disbelief. I wanna go. This looks like fun. A pink girl with yellow horns yells in excitement. This is what I'm talking about. Using our quirks as much as we want. A black-haired boy with a triangular smile says. So, this looks fun, huh? Zawa says in a cold tone which catches all of the students' attention. You have 3 years here to become a hero. Do you think it's all gonna be games and playtime? Idiots. Today you will compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in last has none, and will be expelled immediately, Zawa says in an intimidating tone as a small sadistic smile creeps onto his face. Izuku walks back to join his classmates and stands next to Uraraka and Ida. Like I said, I get to decide how this class runs. Understand? If that's a problem, you can head home right now, Zawa says as he lifts his hair out of his eyes and stares at the class to intimidate them. You can't send one of us home. I mean, we just got here. Even if it wasn't the first day, that isn't fair. Uraraka complains. Oh, and you think natural disasters are? Or power-hungry villains? Or catastrophic accidents that wipe out whole cities? No, the world is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to try to combat that unfairness. If you wanna be a pro, you're gonna have to push yourself to the brink. For the next 3 years, will throw one terrible hardship after another at you. So, go beyond. Plus ultra style. Show me it's no mistake that you're here. Zawa responds coldly. Izuku chops Uraraka on the head. Oh. Uraraka says as she rubs her head and pouts as she turns to look at Izuku. You really need to stop questioning our teacher. He decides who goes and who stays, whether we like it or not. The only thing you can do is try your best. Izuku scolds her. Alright. Uraraka says as she tries to muster the courage to bring her all. I don't approve of this kind of hazing, but it's the top hero program. I have no choice. Ida says in his mind as he pulls out a canister and drinks from it. Time to blow these nerds away. Bakugo shouts in his mind. Ha. Bring it on. It's too bad if someone leaves, but I guess it's on them. If they just don't cut it, then they should have trained harder. Izuku thinks to himself. Now then, we're just wasting time by talking. Let the games begin. Zawa says in his normal bored tone. End of chapter 5.